Ancient Chinese education. Ancient Chinese education followed the policy of isolation, and they have no fear for invasion, and they have no intention to conquer. This country did not care to associate with the rest of the world, but instead desired to live unto self. The Great Wall of China was built for protection against invaders. Education was mainly concerned with the memorizing the works of Confucius, a great religious leader who gave the Chinese people rules for right living. Golden Rule, Confucius prays, "What you do not like when done to yourself, do not do to others." The aims of education in ancient Chinese. Number 1 is ideological and ethical or moral learning, cultural development, and civil service. This era, civil service examination was originated. This is to prepare students to take the state examination to qualify for higher status in life and for position in the government. Types of education. Ideological and moral education. This is where the Confucian relationship, doctrine of submission, and the cardinal virtues. Language education. The Chinese language has to be mastered or memorized, for it has many characters. Vocational and domestic education. Trade skills had to be acquired by men, while women focus on domestic skills, for they have to serve men and their children. Civic education. This type of education was for those who would like to serve in the government. Military education. This was for defense and aggression purpose. China at one time was a big empire due to its neighboring territories. The methods of instructions. Teaching method. Teaching was not confined in the classroom. Outer teaching was prevalent. Direct and exact imitation. This was especially true in writing many Chinese characters. Memorization. Under some teachers, the whole time was devoted to memorization. In order to hold any official position, the following books had to be mastered. Number 1, the Shuqing. It is an outline of history before the time of Confucius. The Shiqing. It is a book of odes, an outline of poetry. The Yiqing. It is a book of changes, an outline of prophecy and augury. The Liqiqing. It is the book of rites, an outline of social etiquette. And the last, the Shaoqing. It is the book of filial piety. The other 4 books are the Taoshu. It is the great learning. The Chongyun. It is the doctrine of the mean. The Lonyu. It is the saying of Confucius. And the Mengqi. It is the saying of Mencius. Taoism, path of reason, was the second Chinese philosophy for living. This was attributed to Lao Tse. His only works, the Tao Te Ching, translated the Book of the Way, and the virtue that comes therefrom, consist of 81 stanzas or brief aphorism which scrutinize life and its purpose. Hindu education. Aims education in early Hindu education. First is the Dharma, the religious and social duties. It is the most important aim that provides value system for each individuals. Second is the Artha, livelihood, earning a livelihood by honest means. Third is the Kama, the good life, enjoying good things in life in moderation. And lastly is the Moksha, leading the soul towards God and achieving release from the cycle of the rebirths. India has an ancient system of social divisions called Varna, which maybe existed even before the reference to it in the Vedas. The word Varna is Hinduism signify the social category, which are the white Varna, or the Brahmins or Brahmans. They are the priests or scholars. Second is the red Varna, or the Kshatriyas. They are the rulers, administrators, and the soldiers. Next is the yellow Varna, which is the Vaishyas. They are the peasants, farmers, or the merchants. Followed by the black Varna, or the Sudras. These were the skilled artisan, or the potters, weavers, basket makers, and the servants. And lastly is the Panchamas, or the Parias, or the untouchable ranking, the lowest Sudras. These people did the dirtiest job. The upper Varnas treated them badly and even avoided touching them. They were the most exposed people in the society. Untouchability was abolished by law in India in 1950. The India leader and teacher Mahatma Gandhi named the untouchables Haryajans.
Early Hebrew education. The Hebrews appeared about 4000 BC near Sumeria. They were nomadic Semitic tribes who moved from their flocks from oasis to oasis in the Arabian desert. During Abraham's time, they lived in Ur, then Haran in the crescent in 2000 BC, and later entered Canaan near the edge of the Mediterranean Sea. They were forced to live in Egypt because of the famine in Canaan. Through the leadership of Moses, they escaped their slavery from Egypt and languished for many years in Sinai Desert. Then under Joshua's leadership, they entered Canaan, conquered the people of Jericho, and took lands along the Jordan River, a land flowing with milk and honey, for this land is good only for pasturage and honeybees. There are three great crises in the history of Hebrews, which are the Babylonian exile or captivity on 586 BC, the destruction of Temple of Solomon 70 AD, and the diaspora or the dispersion of the Jews. They develop ideas, mores, and concepts that made them cling together and endure whatever befell them. These ideas, mores, and concepts are: Number 1, an omnipotent and righteous creator, God, who selected the Hebrews as his chosen people. Second, a coming Messiah who would restore the Jewish exceptional position lost through faithfulness. And lastly, holiness and obedience on the part of the Jews as a condition of their restoration. The methods of instruction were compulsory, oral, memorization, exposition, and temple worship. Education was compulsory. The boys were taught in school and the girls at home. In the elementary, the spoken word was used for lack of writing materials. Writing was done with stylus. Pupils were required to memorize passages and sentences learned. They used extensive mnemonic devices for memorization. A part of the Jewish education was temple worship, but it was compulsory for all males to visit the temple at least 3 times, and that was during the festivals of the Passover, the Shabbat, and the Tabernacles. The school day was long. It started early in the morning and lasted into the evening with a short recess at noon. Humanity is primarily in debt to the Jews. The following may be considered their outstanding contributions to education and humanity. Number 1 is the monotheism, the concept of one and only one God, a principle shared by Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Number 2 is the 10 Commandments, the general guide to ethical conduct that has set a standard for social living for several thousand years. And lastly is the Bible, that fountainhead of so much Western traditions and literature.